we're going to talk about what a true leader looks like, with decades on experience working with enterprise executives and our personal experience as well. We're going to share, what that looks like, do's and don'ts, experience, good and bads. And this is the Worthy Mindset team. So welcome.
Welcome.
Feel free to drop any question. At the end of the live, we're also gonna open to a Q&A. So also this is a live chat. So interact with us on the comments. We will respond as soon as we can. And yeah. Hey, Rich, I would love to start out this asking you a question. Like, I believe this is the most complex question we hear, in enterprise and in our families, in our communities, like what a true leader looks like, based on your experience. Like, what are your thoughts around this question as we dive deep along the life into it? What are your first thoughts?
Give me a little bit more context to your question there, just so I had that thought.
Like, what I mean is, we are all leaders, right?
Right.
So what is a true leader for you? Like,
Leader.
yeah.
Leader. So a true leader to me is someone that you follow in a way that you don't follow others. You follow them because one, you want to be around them, and you believe in what they say and what they're doing. Um, Not necessarily controlling you. They're guiding you. They're walking alongside you. A true leader always walks alongside someone. Um, I would say the third thing that I would think in a leader is that they are relatable. Um, if a leader feels so high up that you can't talk to them, or you don't feel comfortable talking to them,
Hmm.
they're not leading. They're being kind of a ruler, or an executive that you just don't feel comfortable with. Um, I found that the best leaders, and these are like CEOs, I found that are the best leaders. They are so relatable, so easy to go and talk to. That they're like just anyone else. You don't feel like I can't talk to them, or I can't say something to them. You feel like I can just go up and hang out with them, and you do, and many times you do. I mean, they're usually in an environment with you, and you can just feel, hey, how you doing, and have a conversation with them, and that's a difference from a leader to an executive guiding the company, in essence. A leader walks along with you. Doesn't mean they're not in charge, and doesn't mean that they're not going to say, don't do this, do that, and all those things. But they guide you in a way that you feel like you're walking with them at all times, and that's a true leader. So
And whenever we bring that insight, great insights, by the way, Rich, to executive teams, it's so complex, right? Because there's a silent threat throughout those teams, because things go south whenever, almost when it's too late, kind of thing, you
mhm.
know? So whenever you have an executive that is leading a team or a company that doesn't align with the culture, sometimes we only notice when it's too late, right? And the reason why I say that, one time we hired on a human resource director, for Corners as an influencer agency, and he did a communication activity that changed my mind forever. This is what he did, and a lot of the communication with between the executive team and the leadership, it's lost based on communication, right? Because sometimes I might come up to you and say, "Hey, Rich, uh, can you do this for me ASAP?" And you said, "All right, yeah, I would do it." But what is ASAP? Actually, for me, might be tomorrow. For you, might be in 2 hours. So you might freak out because I didn't give you the right directions, kind of thing. I said, "Hey, I need this by tomorrow." But by tomorrow, what do I mean? By tomorrow morning, like first hour in the morning, or by tomorrow, final commercial hour? So what this HR director did, he said, "All right, gather up." So he gathered like 6 to 5 people and said, "Everyone grab a piece of paper." We all grabbed a piece of paper and a pen. And he said, "All right, I'm going to start giving you guys instructions. Okay? Okay. So everyone draw a round head." Everyone drew a round head. Everyone draw pointy ears. Everyone draw round eyes. And at the end of the activity, he said, "All right, so now everyone show up their drawings." And we were like, "Oh my God." Like, you know what happened?
Every
Everyone was different. And the magic was, he said, "Did you guys notice that everyone received the same instructions, but each one of you interpreted them differently?"
Yep.
Because that's the way you saw the instruction. What's your take on that?
I,
What's your vision? Do you have any experience with something similar like that?
I have, and one thing that always sticks out in my head now, because I've seen this now a few times, is there's videos out on YouTube about making peanut butter and jelly, and this guy out there will have his kid tell him how to make a peanut butter and jelly. And they give him the instructions and they have to tell him exactly how to make that peanut butter and jelly. So they'll say, take out a slice of bread. He takes out a slice of bread and drops the, like they literally like go through the steps and they get very frustrated with him because he does it exactly how they say. And so they're not understanding it, and then as they get going they start to realize they have to be more detailed, and they have to give the if they want it to be done a certain way, they have to give all the steps. It can't be just take out a piece of bread and throw peanut butter and jelly on it. What does that mean? Okay, I'm going to throw the jar on and that's it. No, you gotta do all the different steps of picking up the knife and pulling out the different condiments and all that. You you have to be detailed in your instructions. I find that the same with working with AI. You have to give it the right instructions. If you don't give it the right instructions, it will go off and do what it wants because it only knows what you're asking and says, okay, well, this is how I would do that. And I've learned that also in my own world where as a leader, I had many times I've given instructions to somebody and I expected a certain way. And when it comes back to me and it's not the way I would do it, I have to like readjust myself before I say anything because I realize
Yeah.
that, well, I didn't say do it this way or anything. I just said I need this. And they did it the way that they thought to do it. So it's not that it's wrong, it's the way they thought that it should. So unless I want it done a certain way or a very specific way, I can't just expect it to happen. I have to give those details. If I want it done in a template format, I have to give them the template. I can't just assume they're going to know what that template looks like if they've never seen it before. So communication is so important when it comes down to leadership. You must know how to talk to your employees or who you're working with and give them the right information if you expect something to come back the same way. And it's a two-way street. Communication has to go both ways.
True, sweet.
Exercises like what your HR did is exactly what should be done across the board so people understand communication can so easily be misinterpreted. And we start to fill in the blank. So if we give do A, B, C, Well, there's steps in between A, B, and C. And who knows? I might have A one, 2, 3, 4, and you might have A one, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that fifth one did might make it completely different from what I did. And that's important that we understand what are those inner points that happen in between each step so we can keep consistent with our conversations and keep that communication to what we want. If we have expectations, we have to be clear at all times. Otherwise, we're going to get what they interpret.
Yeah. And that's when things go south because when communication is not aligned and the parties expect different things from each other, tension starts to build out, fail to meet certain deadlines and this and but sometimes you just, like that happened to me once, like we did like a sprint planning, did the roadmap and everything, and I expected the team to deliver Friday, for example, and then Friday came in, nothing. So like I was tense. I was like angry, like what's happened? And it's a bug. It's any technical difficulty, something like that. No, it was just misalignment, They thought the deadline was on Monday.
Exactly.
That was it, And it was my fault. And that's the tricky part. Was my fault as a leader to acknowledge that to the team,
Hmm.
Like the
You're
leader.
weren't set, so they assumed, okay, well, he probably just means next week. We'll have it ready for next week.
Yes. And
And
that's exactly what happened.
you might have said, let's have this ready for next week. And you're in your mind, if you would have it for Friday, so you on Monday. But in their mind,
Yes.
oh, you don't want it until Monday. So they
Yes.
so,
Yes.
right. So that's how that communication can really go wrong in such an easy, simple way. So
Yes.
and I think the other side to that it's so important for leaders to understand is that it's not always about how it's getting done. So if I ask for something to be done X way and it doesn't come back exactly the way I think it would be done, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It
Yeah.
that it's not the way I expected it. So I need to
Mhm.
be able to adjust to that, or I need to be clearer on what I want. If I
Yeah.
want done in exact format, like a template report, then I need to give them that template. I can't just say, make this report 'cause
Yes.
they've never seen it before, or they don't
Yeah.
maybe they've seen it before, but they don't know how to use that template. I need to give them that and make sure they understand that before we go into a point of, oh, well, you didn't do it right. Because they did it. They it might be a perfect report, but because
Yeah.
I gave them the information the way I expected it, now it doesn't look right to me, but it looks right to them. So it's that fine line of making sure that communication is always clear for everyone.
And that's and we dive into another topic of our life. Is it better to be feared or to be respected as a leader, And I was in that position before, because sometimes I was, as a leader, you always influencing people, right? You're influencing your team because you're delegating stuff, You
Mhm.
can't do everything by yourself. So you got to have people to do stuff for you or for the whole team, right? So what's your take on this, Rich? Is it better to be feared or to be respected or none of that, something else as a leader?
I think you should always be respected. I think anyone that works on fear goes a really negative way. We should not have that negative feeling ever. I've worked under leadership that has been like that,
Yeah.
and it's stressful, and it's an unneeded stress uh, because you shouldn't have to worry about, am I going to be fired because they don't like the way I did, or am I going to be fired because I said something the wrong way? Or, like if you're worried about every little thing you say to that leader, it's going to cause you that problem all along. So it's really important that that you make sure that you're giving that right guidance to your employees, but also that you're working in a way that is, again, you're still leading, but you don't have to be mean to them. You have to be
Yeah.
kind, considerate, and remember that they're human. They're not
Yeah.
they're a piece of tool out there. They're not just there to for your pleasure to scream at and holler at. They're there because they're trying to work for you. So remember that, and you'll get more out of that, because you if you treat them the right way, they will do 10 times more for you than if you treat them the wrong way. And that's a simple fact.
That's amazing. And there's one book that I would love to recommend. It's from Machiavelli, it's from the 16th century. It's called The Prince, where he walks us through the different archetypes of leadership, you know. And from my personal experience, Rich, I love the insights that you brought in because I did it all, right? Sometimes I try to be fear, whenever I was evolving as a leader, I was lost. I had a huge team behind me. So I was trying to figure out how to lead. And the times that for example, I learned the most valuable lesson ever. Never be fear, so never give. That's my golden rule, never give a feedback in front of the whole team. Like, if you want to say something to somebody, good or bad, take him out, to a private environment and give the feedback on a one-on-one kind of environment. Never give a bad feedback in front of the whole team. You would break the confidence with the person and with the whole team, because you begin to be fear, because everybody is going to fear to receive the same treatment as you gave that person. So that's when things go south.
Yep. You got
And
that group scolding. Maybe they're
yes,
wrong, and maybe they deserve whatever,
yes,
but that doesn't mean you need to embarrass them in front of everyone. You can have,
yes,
because maybe you misinterpreted even. But even if you
yeah,
did interpret, it still isn't right to embarrass them in front of everyone.
yeah, yeah,
And then you also mentioned about if it's a good comment, sometimes it's not always good to give a compliment to everyone in front of everyone, because that can create some animosity unless you're very
yes,
about doing it. If you're consistent about giving everyone a compliment, that's good. But if you're always giving Joe that compliment, nobody else, you start to
yeah,
create this whole tension of why Joe
yeah,
compliments and we're
yeah,
not. So you have to be very balanced in the way you treat your employee. You can't just, in essence, favor somebody. And if you are always really thinking Joe's doing great, then tell Joe in private, I think you're doing great.
yeah,
Don't
yes.
public. Those are all the tricks.
Yes, yes. I 100% agree. That's what I said, good or bad, never, it's very tricky to be doing those kind of things in public, and in front of everybody. And on the Machiavelli book, we have a lot of examples throughout this the history, a lot of the empires, if you see where the leaders they lead by fear, they fall after they die, or they stop being the king or whatever. Watch out, pay close attention and see all the major empires, they fell after the leader died,
Mhm.
or after somebody else took power, because he was leading by fear. And everybody was just waiting for him to die to take the power, or to do some kind of uprising or something like this, or a revolt or something like this. So, and I believe from my point of view, my other saying is always try to be yourself. I believe fear, respected, loved, whatever, it really suits who you are, you know, because sometimes I saw leaders trying to be something they were not. And it's very fake, very plastic, because people will get to know us, right? Because we work a lot together. We are always interacting together. So even if you're a more introvert people will get to know you a little bit on your personal side,
Yep.
and they will figure out and see, hey, but Khalil, it's this person at the office, but outside of the office, he's different. So this will also confuse people. So in my take, I try to be myself at the end of the day. What do you take on this?
I think it's important to be yourself at all times. And
Yeah.
you spend more time generally with your coworkers than you do with your family, just because of
Yes.
work you're doing, the type of communication a lot of times you're doing. You tend to spend, even though maybe only working 40 hours a week, more than that. And because you're working all those hours, you're spending more time a lot of times than you are with your own family. So they are, in essence, a form of a family. So if you treat them that way, you'll get along better with them versus if you treat them like just an employee or just
Yeah.
someone. Treat them a little bit more like a friend. Doesn't mean you have to be their best friend. Doesn't mean you have
Hmm.
after work or anything like that. It just means that you want to have that understanding, that cordial friendliness, that that interpersonal feeling that so that when you're talking with them, you don't feel like you have to talk to them or you're not talking the right way or anything like that. You want to feel like you know them and you can just have that conversation. Especially when it comes down to an uncomfortable conversation. There are times in
Yeah.
business for employees and for bosses that the conversations that are uncomfortable. Maybe it's that you don't agree with how something's being done, and you need to tell your boss, "Hey, this is going to go wrong,"
Yeah.
and why. Now, that doesn't mean that your boss is going to agree with it, but you still need to be honest with them and be able to have that open conversation, so that even if they don't agree with you, they at least heard your opinion and they understand that you're giving your opinion. I think I found when I worked in corporate, a lot of times we would have these meetings and if we didn't feel comfortable talking in that room, nothing really got done. But once we got past that uncomfortable feeling and we could have the true open conversations just like you would with your family. Like
Hmm.
you want to be able to have that open conversation saying, I don't agree with this. How do we go
Yeah.
around? What do we need to do different? And then everyone says, well, we do agree with it. And then you kind of have to come to agree to disagree. But, that's what family does. There's a point where you come to agree to disagree, but you unite on the front. And that's what we need to do in a corporate world is you have to have that. But saying I don't agree with that is so important still because maybe there's a piece of that that is right, and the team will help to adjust so that that piece is taken care of. And that's important too. We went through we had times where we had some teams that weren't that well gelling, and we've actually had people come in and sit with us and help us to go through that. And it's almost um like a broken family being put back together because
Hmm.
talked through things and we had to understand why
Yeah.
the way we did and not talk to each other the way we should and we worked through it and then we became a closer knit team and we could get through those things. It's about being able to have that honest and open communication with your team. And if you can't do that, then you're not on the right level with your team.
Yeah. And you brought something great here, Rich, because whenever you have a great leadership and a conflict comes up, two things gonna happen. Either everything's gonna go south or everything is gonna work out. And whenever the leader is not who he's supposed to be and he's like pretending, whenever things go south, you're going to lose total trust on your team, because you're going to behave like an atomic bomb. Nobody would expect the kind of behavior. And the last thing you want to do in a conflict situation is lose trust,
Yep.
right? And whenever those situations go back and back, because I've been on both sides, I've been the leader in a conflict situation and I was led into a conflict situation. And the worst part is whenever things go south and the leader comes in, knocking the door, yelling at people or, out of his mind, that's it. You lost trust. You can manage to get out of the situation, but you lost trust forever because now the whole team is gonna fear the next situation and the next because they're gonna say, "Hey, how Khalil's gonna act up whenever we mess up again?" They will always live in fear, and you lost trust. It's impossible to rebuild. I know, but it's gone kind of thing. So it's always good to behave like you said. And I bring another book suggestion. It's called The Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, right? So he talks about this, how to approach this, how to delegate, how to influence people, how to deal with conflicts and everything, because there's always somebody on the other side. And the best way to bond with the team is acknowledge that we are a team.
Mhm.
We're not in this separate ways. We are always all in this boat, going in the same direction. So we all have the good faith in the team kind of thing. What are your thoughts around this, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. You wanna have the good faith of your team. If you don't have that faith of your team, or you're considered a mean leader or a leader that, doesn't respect, their employees, what you end up starting to create is this environment where your employees are going to be, in essence, plotting to either get away from you, plotting to not do what you want right, plotting in ways that are going to be not helpful to you. And that's not an environment you want to create. You want to create an environment where your employees want to do everything for you. They want to do anything that they can to make sure the business goes strong
Yeah.
and that they are making you happy. If they are doing it out of fear, trust me, they're plotting to either leave or they're plotting to do something wrong that's gonna hurt you, and that's not what.
Hmm. Yes. And they are watching you all the time.
Yeah.
So that's what some leaders they they don't figure it out. Like you are the culture of the company. I've seen and I work with leaders, they preach, hey, this is a welcoming culture, this is a safe environment company and stuff like that. But they did otherwise, you
Mhm.
know? They led by fear, they led by respect, they led by, you know, and what happens? People, they how can I say, they they do the same behavior. They said, hey, my leader is doing that with his team, I'm gonna do the same with my team. So that's become the culture of the company.
Yep.
And when otherwise happens, the culture, it's amazing, because everybody looks to the leader and say, hey, he's doing that, I'm going to do it too. So when things go south, when a conflict comes up, when a deadline's not met, and the whole team gets together and say, hey, it's okay, we're in this together, the magic happens because the trust, the teams, the tribe together, and it's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I've been with both sides as well too. I've been in a company where we had leaders that were kinda trained the wrong way, and
Yeah.
they mean in essence, and I was,
Yeah.
and eventually I left there. Even when it got better, because there was a point where it got better, I still in the back of my head, "I gotta get out of here." And I
Mhm.
did, and I went to a company that was completely opposite, where they were exactly that. They were very open, they were very honest, they were very friendly. They had town halls, they had great meetings, they had all these events to keep their employees very happy and connected with the leaders, and the leaders would hang out with the employees, which was even better. So that whole environment changed, and now I was in a place where I didn't want to leave. I was there. I was going to do everything I could to be with that company until the end of time. Now, unfortunately, life changes and things happen on my own that I had to leave the company, but that was my own needs for my family, not for the company. But I love the company. I still do, and I talk with them, and I keep in touch with them, and I still believe in their values. I mean, and I think that's the other thing is companies and leaders need to have core values. So even if you think that those values are just for the company, no, they need to be your core values as well, because that's what you're leading with is those core values.
And that's presence over performance. Like some leaders, I was that kind of leader once. I wanted performance, but I forgot that there was a human being on the other side. And I have a few examples to address that, Rich. uh Once upon a time, I had a motorcycle dealership, right?
Mhm.
So sometimes obvious stuff happened. So one of the employees had to skip work or got sick and something like that. And I'm gonna bring an example. So the the supplier brought in motorcycles to deliver, right? So we were short on people, right? And I saw this situation happen 2 times. And the first time, I was on the sideline telling people, hey, hurry up, time's money, take those motorcycles out of the truck and put it on the stock and this and that, you know? So
Mhm.
this is the first situation. And the second situation, I would, you know, take off my sleeves and go there, help him out, like, hey, let's go. Let me help you out. Take those motorcycles out of the truck. Let's put here and there. What do you think happened on both situations?
You probably had people that didn't follow directions, and they probably created issues there that you weren't getting your expectations.
And on the second one,
Go ahead, tell me what, because my mind went side. What happens when you get up?
they they trust the leader. They said, "Hey, we are short on people, but this guy actually came out of his office and is helping us out." You know, so they thrive on the situation. So that's amazing, and that's the kind of leadership we need to have. You know, we need the leader must be someone to the team that they trust. They say, "Hey, if we're short on people, this guy's gonna come out and help us out." If we don't meet the deadline, he's not gonna backlash us. He's gonna come out and sit with us and say, "Hey, why are we not meeting the deadline? Why are we not meeting the goal? Why the revenue is down? Oh, it's down. Okay, no problem. Nobody's gonna be backlash. Let's sit down. Let's figure this out. What is the problem? What is this? Do you guys need more support? What do you guys need? So that's the kind of leadership that builds a thriving environment.
Exactly. So I'm curious what our audience is thinking, because we do have a few people out there. What would you consider as a good leader? What's your thoughts? If you can put that in the chat, we'd love to hear what others are thinking. In the meantime, we can continue on, but I'm just curious what people think about what a true leader is to them.
Awesome. Great question. And on those tough times, Rich, I learned that as three things that we can do. We can push, we can pause, or we can pivot, right? How to take the best because as I mentioned, it's really easy to be a good leader when everything is running smooth, right? But when things go south and wartime comes, and we don't meet the deadline, we don't reach the goal that was set, 6 months ago, that's when things go south. So what's your thought on how to push, pause, or pivot
I think
as a leader?
as a leader, you can always push, but you have to push with kindness. So there's nothing wrong with pushing for a deadline or pushing for that, but you need to push with kindness. I think you need to always pause and look at what's going on, where are things at. I think those are important parts to it. And then what was your third one there? You said give another a push, a pause, and what was the other?
Push, pause, or pivot.
Pivot. Pivot would be coming where you would need to do that if things aren't getting done to the way you need. Then you have that conversation with the team. How can we work together to get to this point? What do we need to do? Bring that team involved in it versus you saying what to do because they might have ideas that you didn't think of. Just like we talked about in the beginning, how what we do with A to B is different what everyone else might do with A to B. So we need to like hear other thoughts and then we can come up with the right plan to get to that improved process or that improved completion of the task that's at hand. So there is a time to do all three, and you can do all three at all, throughout your entire course there. But the key thing is how you do it. It's all comes down to how you do it.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. And a great tool to use on those situations is ask questions. Either to yourself or the team. Like, does this moment needs action, rest, or a shift? you
Yeah.
know so by asking those questions, we're gonna have a clear vision of the situation. you know like, all right, is there something to be done now? It's urgent. It's not. It can wait. Does the team needs to rest? Are they tired? you know do we need to shift because the whole process is done wrong? So I believe those are the kind of questions that needs to be asked on those times to address the best outcome.
Hmm.
Because again, I was the leader in both situations. When things go south, sometimes you just want to push. For example, the team didn't meet the goal, the revenue goal, for example, for the quarter, right? Sometimes you gather the sales team and say, "Hey guys, 30 days to go. We still haven't met the goal, so let's keep pushing." But that's not a solution. Sometimes the team needs something different. They need to rest, and the reason they are not performs is because they are burning out. Kind of thing. They're working so much to achieve the goal that they have burned out, or what else? So, or the goal is unachievable. Have you thought of? I did that in the past. Sometimes I sat with the sales team like an unachievable goal. You know, and that's gonna break the team because they're gonna work their a offs. Trying to achieve that goal, and the only thing they need is rest and some shift. Some adjustments.
I think it's important to have good goals that are obtainable, but they are goals. They can't be easy goals. You always want something that's a stretch goal, but it has to be something that you all agree is obtainable. If
Yeah.
you're not agreeing that if no one agrees that's obtainable, that why are you going for that? You should all agree that yes, we can do that. It might take a little extra work and a little extra elbow grease or whatever, but in the end, you should be able to do it. If that's the case, then that's a good goal. If there's even a inkling of a thought that it's impossible to do, why is that a goal? Every goal you make should always be something that you can obtain within the time period that you're giving. So that should be always the way you set up goals, and that's important for any business. You must set them up right.
There's a great tool for that. Even Rich, it's called as Marco. saying that every goal must be smart. And what that stands for,
Mark,
first, needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound.
yep.
You know, that's one of the best tools that I know out there, to set goals.
We use the SMART goals in pretty much everything I did, when I worked at my one corporation, and, it made a big difference because my prior one, they
Yeah.
didn't do that. So we always did that. Now I've also been at companies where we did the fail quick and move quick. Um,
Hmm.
that can also be a good thing, but it can also create a lot of issues. You should have a little bit better understanding of what you are accepting as a failure versus just going and breaking things. It's important to move fast when, especially when you're in a spot like that, but it's also important to understand what your true goal is versus just running. Sometimes that running can create more chaos than you ever would want. So it's important to have a good balance there with those things. But the SMART goals are really the best way to really obtain and plan out your any tasks that you're doing. So if you have a project plan, you should always have SMART goals built into that project plan.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong here. I agree with you. And it's all about the culture, the culture, the market you're in, the kind of team that you have, the product, to find the best tools to lead and manage the teams. Culture is contagious, and that brings us to another topic that I would. Love to bring in. I say that you you're gonna know a true leader by the way that he treats a waitress. You know, like, if you want to know the true leader, watch how he treats a waitress. That's goal for me. Because again, cultures is contagious. Because if you behave good or bad with that waitress, your team's gonna watch. And if you treat her good, for example, you know, that will build trust with your team. But if you do something wrong and misbehave, you're gonna lose trust because your team, it's contagious. Again, your team is gonna say, hey, that could be me one day,
Mhm.
you know? What are your thoughts on culture, Rich?
I think culture is huge. I've learned that, years that is, like, probably the big point. If you can create the right culture, you anything in a company. That's one thing I've learned. I worked at DaVita. DaVita's all about culture, and they really emphasize the community and the culture around it. And to your point about, like, how you can identify if someone's going to be good, a waitress is one way, but I think you can expand that and go, how do they treat other people around them?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who it is, really. Start watching how that person treats other people, and you quickly will start to identify, are they a good person or a bad person? Because
Yeah.
we see this all the time, even when we're watching things on TV or whatever. You can quickly identify if that person's good or bad, and if you agree or disagree with them by how they're treating people, and you're going to
Yeah.
come to that understanding very quickly.
Yes, I totally agree. I have worked with like 2,000 people company, and you see, like, the executive team all wearing suits and blazers and whatever, and the management team, more easygoing, wearing jeans and whatever. And you see the different way they behave with each other, like the executive teams, they all like handshakes and, treating everyone, each other very well, very pleasant, very polite. And when it comes down to the lower levels, as we might put, you see them treating different way, like no handshakes, very rasp, very, like, and what's up? And that's the whole thing about culture.
I worked in call centers. So Davita was where I worked at in Davita. Part of that was a call center, and what I could always tell is when a good leader came through, I could tell them very quickly because they would walk around and talk to everyone, or they would just come and talk to me. If they want
Mhm,
to talk to everyone on the call center floor, and just a little conversation, you'd nothing a lot, but just enough to, like, show that who they are and be relatable with them. That made
mhm.
for the ones that didn't go out there, no one knew who they were, no one cared about them because they didn't take the time to talk to them. So, having a leader that will take the time to even just say hello to everyone goes so far. It goes so far, and you can really get a lot out of your staff if you are willing to take that step. I always walk the call center floor and talk to everyone because that made a difference. They knew who I was. I was known, because of that all over the place. And that makes a difference because now you start to it's that branding. We talked about this once before. Branding is important, and going around and talking to people on in an office is just as important as sitting at your desk in a office that is for an executive. You're still the same person as everyone else. You still put your pants on the same way. It's the simple facts. So treat everyone the same way. Don't think of yourself as better than them.
And I'm very glad to work with you, Rich, because you are a worthy leader, self-aware, clear spoken, grounding and service. So tell us to wrap it up and open for a Q&A. Tell us a little bit more the leader you are. At the wordy mindset, at the corners lion, at corners, because I really appreciate the way that you lead, our companies and stuff. So tell us a little bit more who is Rich, and how did you become the worth leader?
I I my name is Rich, and I've come from an environment where I've gone through every bit for over 20 some years of being from the front end of a call center, taking those phone calls and everything else, having a mean leader come in and say, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, even though I might have been doing everything exactly the way I was taught. But that was how that person treated me. And then I moved on and I got into other positions and I grew very quickly from left to right, how to treat other people. And I watched and I grew and I learned and then got into management. And once I got into the management level, I started to realize that it's really important on how you treat your staff. If you don't treat them right, they're not going to work for you. They're going to work with you, maybe, but they're not going to work for you. And in the end, you want them to work for you because if they work for you, you're going to get more done and you can work together as a strong team. If you don't have a strong team, you have nothing. So that's where I've come from. So bringing all those years of experience, I was a manager for technology for many years, and I learned how to handle that. And I did big conferences. I would go to them and help uh, basically keep the group very active and engaged, and learning all those steps were huge and great insights for me. So now I bring that all to here and go, okay, how can I turn that into corners? How can I turn that into the worthy mindset? And the worthy mindset was created based on a lot of this because I really wanted to share with others how my leadership grew, as well as the mental health side of it because I've gone through that. How I've learned to be that writer since I've started on Substack. So I've taken all those pieces, I've started putting them together, and now with you, Cleo, we're building this whole media group where we have tools and we can share all our years of experiences together. So this is the great time for us because we are just starting to really build and grow this, in essence, empire of media.
Mm,
We're going to really have a lot to offer everyone, and we already
mm,
everyone. So we have the sales going on for our subscriptions. We have the different areas that we're building out. We also have the Corners app that we have growing now. So these all these parts that we're building they all connect together and they work so nice because they all have a bit of things in common with each other, and they create that mental awareness, that leadership, that worthiness,
Mm.
all that ties together so nicely. And that's kind of how I got here, and how I'm leading it is with that worthiness.
And the good news is you're watching us there, uh, you can be a worthy leader as well, you
Absolutely.
know. So join us, subscribe on the Worthy Mindset team, you know, join us corners, join us everywhere on Substack, on our paid section on the Worthy Mindset. You have a lot of tools, one-on-one calls, one-on-one mentoring with me, Rich, and a whole pipeline of stuff so you can also become the worth leader yourself. So what are you waiting for? Join us and become a worth leader. All right, Rich. So let's open up for Q and A's. We still have a few minutes. So yeah,
Love,
Jordan,
love.
Dave, Steve, Cohen, Elizabeth, Joseph, everyone out there listening to us, drop your question, your feedback, your insights, your support. It's always a pleasure to hear from you guys.
We have a quiet bunch out there.
Yes.
It's okay. If you're not comfortable, chatting, but you're enjoying listening, we love that. Um, I will at the end, I'll send out to everyone on this, just a little info as well as questions because I kind of would love to hear your feedback on what the whole experience was and what you think how we're doing with this. We're going to continue growing with this. This is our only our second time doing this, so we're learning tricks and how to work with the camera and everything else. So it's a challenge in some ways, but it's a good challenge. So we're going to continue growing, and you're going to continue seeing other people join us as time goes on. So we're already working on creating that environment. So definitely keep tabs on us, and if you have any thoughts or you have something you would love us for us to talk about in one of these worthy lives, please let us know. We would love to hear that as well.
Yeah. Amazing, Rich. And obviously, feel free to reach us privately if you have any question, if you want any guidance whatsoever. We are always available to speak to you. All
And
right, Rich.
everyone that the worthy mindset team is a combination of the worthy leader, the worthy writer, the worthy mindset, and the worthy pride, or my worthy pride. So those four pillars are all under the my worthy mindset team. And if you purchase the my worthy mindset team, you get access to all four pillars. So that's a value that you get if you become one of our subscribers.
Yes. Amazing, Rich. All right.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing comments coming through, so I think we're coming to an end. But we loved having everyone here. And again, we'll send things out. Uh, we'll be doing this again next Thursday, same time at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Take care. Take care,
You
everybody.
too. Bye bye.
Bye.